Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program and we're doing guided loving kindness meditation. This is where I'm rotating each Wednesday now for the rest of the group learning program, where one week I will do breathing mindfulness meditation, the next week loving kindness meditation. If you're just starting your day, this is a great meditation for you because loving kindness meditation is oftentimes done in the morning because it kind of sets up your day to go out into the world and be more loving and kind, because that's how you're going to really transform your relationships, is by being more loving and kind. Whereas if you have bitterness or hostility or resentment or any anger or frustration or agitation in your relationships, you can actually eliminate all of that by transforming your mind through training of your mind. So if you train your mind with loving kindness meditation each day, slowly but surely you'll wear away that roughness and that harshness so that you can be more loving and kind in your relationships. You're going to need to couple this with right intention, right speech, and right action from the Eightfold Path so that you can go out into the world with that wisdom of right intention, right speech, and right action, so that you can go out and now be more loving and kind through your intention, speech, and actions. So welcome to all of you guys, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly. The way that I do this meditation is I start with chanting to ease us into the meditation, and you're welcome to join along in these chants. I taught this towards the middle part of the group learning program. I did a 4-part series on this. After the chanting, I'm going to do some guidance for breathing mindfulness meditation, just to kind of get you focused on the breath and get that going. The guidance will probably be about 3 to 5 minutes long, and then another 3 minutes or so actually doing the meditation without guidance. Then I'm going to come back in with some guidance on loving kindness meditation. You'll hear me saying these affirmations, and when I say these affirmations, you would like to just repeat these in the mind on the out breath. Then we're going to ultimately go back to breathing mindfulness meditation and come out with the chanting as well. So it's kind of like a loving kindness sandwich where you've got loving kindness in the middle. The lettuce and tomato is the breathing mindfulness meditation on each side. And then you've got the bread holding it all together, which is the chanting. And this meditation can be done at really any time, but it's really helpful to do it in the morning. But that doesn't mean you couldn't do it in the middle of the day or the evening as well. And while I'm doing very general statements to transform your mind, when you hear these affirmations, you'll hear me doing them in a general way because I'm guiding everyone here that's attending for this or the people listening to the replay. But when you do this meditation, you would like to customize it for your specific needs. So if there's people that you do have anger or hatred or ill will towards, or even just an annoyance or irritation that's coming from that same aspect of the mind, that you would like to include them in your meditation and actually use their name. So if there's a person named Bob in your life that you have anger, hatred, or ill will towards, you would like to have that person in your meditation. So instead of the general statements that I'm using, you would like to use, may Bob be peaceful, may Bob be safe, may Bob be well, may Bob be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. So while you hear these affirmations, you're not sending loving kindness to people. You're not trying to change other people through your meditation. You're transforming your mind and rewiring your mind so that then you can be more loving and kind in your relationships. And this is what will help you to transform your relationships, because you've transformed your mind and now you'll function differently in the relationships. And that's why you need the wisdom from right intention, right speech, and right action to really help you in your relationships. So as I mentioned, I'm going to start with chanting. This isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory because everything that he taught was oral. So these chants, it's not a ritual or it's not even prayer or anything like that. Nowadays, we don't need the chanting in order to commit the teachings to memory. We do it in order to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So there's nothing mystical or magical about these chants. So take whatever position is comfortable for you. With loving kindness meditation, we're usually doing that in the seated, lying, or standing positions. So you can use any of those three. There is a walking position, but we only do breathing mindfulness meditation from that position. So again, welcome to all of you guys. I'll start with this chanting, which you're welcome to join in on, and then I'll come back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Naparhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Naparhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namarasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavito Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May my friends, family, neighbors, and co-workers all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Phutang Bhagavanahang Abhivateyami Savakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang namami. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho. Vichacharanang sammuno sakhato rokavito anuttero purisa dhamma sati satatawa manusanang Bhoto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, I'd like to welcome all of you guys to our class today. This was a guided loving kindness meditation. And as I mentioned at the beginning of class, it's really helpful in the morning. So if right now is the morning for you, or you're just kind of starting off your day, doing loving kindness meditation in the morning is excellent because you go out into the world and you're more loving and kind in your relationships, and this is how you can really transform them. But that's not to say that you couldn't do loving kindness meditation in the middle of the day or in the evening, because if you're experiencing a certain amount of anger or frustration or agitation or annoyance or dislike or things like this meditation is perfect for that. It's even really great for individuals who have negative self-talk in the mind. If you're noticing that your mind has negative self-talk and you kind of degrade yourself, this meditation is excellent for you. And you could actually do it 2 or 3 times a day if you like. In all, you would like to do 2 or 3 meditation sessions per day for 30 minutes or more per session. That's what you'd ultimately like to build up to. Understanding it's going to take you time to do that. It could take 6 months, a year, even 2 years or longer to build up to that 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more. It just depends on what's going on in your life and how much space you can create in your life. Because oftentimes we do a lot of unbeneficial things in the unenlightened state, whether it's, extensive amount of hours on YouTube or Facebook or some other thing. Those things aren't harmful. You can use those things, but if you're doing it for extensive periods of time, this can take away from the things that you need in order to really focus on developing your mind, training your mind, understanding the teachings of the Buddha, meditating, and things like this. So I'm going to open up to questions that you guys might have related to the path to enlightenment or anything related to the teachings of the Buddha. You can ask those questions by putting them into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. So it looks like Yusuf has his hand up. Yusuf, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute, you can do so, and then I'll be able to hear your question.
Hi, good evening. Sir, I would like to be the last one who asks. So if you would like to see if there's any guy, I will be interested in being the last one. Okay? That's okay with you?
It's okay with me,
Because
but
I have multiple questions.
what,
So I want to be the last one.
go ahead and ask one of your questions now.
Okay. I had a Facebook account like a year ago, and I did leave that account for like 5 months. So when I did come back to it, I had a friend that doesn't talk to me as he used to be in the past. So he said that he is depressed or something like this. So whenever I try to talk to him, he just reply like with 1 or 2 words, not allowing the conversation to flow. Or something like this. Whenever I try, he used to do. He does that 1 or 2 words. So I don't know if I should keep talking to him or to end the our friendship with him because he doesn't show an interest in me. Well, I have loving kindness for him and I don't expect any interest from him towards me. But if he doesn't ask about my day or something like this, or doesn't talk to me as I talk to him, then why should we continue our relationship? So I don't know what to do here.
Okay, so this is a common question that you've been asking frequently, Youssef, and I know it's a different situation and it's a different friend, but it's clear that you do have expectations for the people around you, because a lot of the questions you ask, privately and even publicly in classes and stuff are all about certain things that your friends are doing and you wanting it to be different. You need to get to the point where you don't have an expectation for your friends to be a certain way, that you love them as they are. If your friend's not interested in talking much and it's just a few words, then so be it. You should be able to be peaceful and calm and serene and joyful no matter what's happening or not happening. So even though he was one way in the past, he's changed because of impermanence. The thing that's causing the problem here is within your own mind, there's a craving, desire, attachment, and expectation. Even though you're saying that there isn't one, there is one, because he's not doing something that you want him to do, and your mind thinks that, oh, because he's not asking me about my life, there's something wrong with this relationship and maybe I shouldn't be friends with him anymore. Instead, this is just the way that he's choosing to be. It's different than before because of impermanence, and your goal should be to just love all beings as they are without any expectation of them to be any particular certain way. Okay, so I'm not hearing any follow-up questions there. So I'm going to go on, Youssef, to some of the questions that came in through Zoom. Robert's asking a question, is it appropriate to repeat the mantras multiple times? Yeah, you can totally do that. That's what I used to do when I was first learning these chants, is that rather than just do them one time through, I used to do them 2 or 3 times through. Sometimes I would even just practice the chanting. I would go into this little room that I had set up and I would do each chant 3 times and then I would just leave sometimes because I was just working on the chanting. And then when I would do the meditations, when I first started out chanting, I would just do chanting, 2 or 3 times, and then I would do my meditation and then do the chanting again for 2 or 3 times. So you can definitely do that. The more practice, the better. It will help fine-tune the mind and exercise the mind. It'll help build your concentration, your memory, your awareness of mind, your awareness of breath. So you can definitely do those as many times as you like. Julie is asking a question here. Thank you, Teacher David. Is the goal eventually not to have any thoughts? If I am lost in thought, I try to bring myself back to the breath. Is that the correct thing to do? Okay, so let me answer that one, and then I see you have another question there. The goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. That's not the goal of the meditation, the breathing mindfulness meditation, nor the loving kindness meditation. Sometimes people think that's the case based on the guidance that we're giving, that focus on the breath, and when the mind moves off the breath, to cut it off and bring it back. Sometimes people think if they have a thought that something's wrong. But even when you're enlightened, you're going to have occasional thoughts in your meditation. The difference is that in the unenlightened state, you'll have a bombardment of thoughts. It'll just be like thought, like rapid fire thoughts sometimes. Or you'll indulge in a thought and you'll follow it for a period of time, and then you'll realize like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating, let me bring my mind back to the breath. So in the enlightened mental state, you'll have a thought, but the difference is you'll notice it right away and you'll easily let it go and come back to the breath. And then there'll be this long period of time where it'll just be still in the mind. The mind will be quieted. So that's the difference. You're still going to have thoughts. So the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts in breathing mindfulness meditation. The goal is to notice them sooner and sooner, and to be able to cut them off and let them go easier and easier. So if you're recognizing that there is a thought and you're more and more easily able to let it go, this is the ultimate goal. So you're going to have thoughts. You need those thoughts, but it's just that you're trying to discipline the mind and control it so that when there is a thought, you can let it go. And that's what you're doing in meditation. You're letting go of any kind of thoughts that come up. But in daily life, what you're doing is you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts. So if you have a wholesome thought, like you'd like to go check in on your husband and say, I love you, go in and say hello, say, hey, honey, how are you? I love you, right? That's a wholesome thing. You're practicing right intention, right speech there, and that's a wonderful thing to do. Or maybe you'd like to take your mom out to dinner or something like that. go forward with that. That's a wholesome thought. You don't need to cut that off in daily life. But if those things come up in meditation, because you're exercising the mind, you're cutting it off and letting it go. So it's kind of like a professional athlete. If a professional athlete was like a pole vaulter or something like that, their sport is pole vaulting, and that looks a certain way. But when they go into the gym to exercise, they might be doing weight training, cardiovascular training, agility training, and things like this. And that looks very different than what they're doing in their sport. So they're training in the gym in one way, and then when they go do their sport, it looks completely different. So the same thing is true when you're training your mind. You're cutting off anything and everything during meditation, doing the breathing mindfulness meditation, but then in daily life, just cut off anything unwholesome. And you're learning more and more through the teachings of the Buddha, what are those unwholesome thoughts? If there's craving, if there's anger, if there's that ignorance or unknowing of true reality, if you see conceit or arrogance or pride, if you're measuring and comparing people, if you're seeing frustration, agitation, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, and realize that even though we say cut it off and let it go, it's really the way that it's happening is you're cutting it off and 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 cutting it off for many, 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 many days, sometimes many weeks, and finally the mind will let it go. There's some cravings, desires, attachments that I worked on for multiple years before the mind ultimately let it go and it was no longer there. So we say cut it off and let it go, and sometimes you can do that internally, but oftentimes when you're first starting in daily life, you need to redirect the mind. So if you're watching the news and you notice frustration coming up, just get up and walk out, go for a walk, or turn off the news and go do something else, rather than just sit there and letting the mind dwell in those conditioned feelings. So more and more you would like to notice what's happening in the mind and then cut it off and let it go in meditation. And then you use those same qualities in daily life, that where you see unwholesome thoughts coming up, you cut them off and let them go. Like anything with the 5 precepts, right? Like you see, maybe if the mind wants to kill, or the mind wants to steal, or have sexual misconduct, or lie, or take intoxicants, you know these are going to lead to unwholesome results, so you cut those off and let them go. You feel this agitation and annoyance and frustration coming up, you cut that off and let it go. And sometimes you need to walk away from the situation, and that's the best thing to do, and that helps the mind to let go. So that's your first question there, Julia. Great question from all of you guys. Let me see this next one. If I feel itchy on my leg starts hurting, do I try to address this during meditation or ignore it? If you can ignore these things, it's best, where you can just stay focused on the breath and not break up your meditation. This will discipline your mind to be unaffected by impermanence, because you're going to have impermanence happening all around you, not just with itchiness in the body, but you're going to hear certain sounds, or the lighting is going to change, or something, right? Something's going to be happening during your meditation, and you would like to be able to focus on the breath and just focus on the breath. But ultimately, if you do need to actually itch that itch, go ahead and do it, but next time try to make it longer and longer and longer that you haven't itched. So if the first time it was like 5 seconds before you had to itch, next time try to make it longer, so you can ultimately get to the point where you see that itch arises, it changes, and it fades away, and your mind is unaffected by this impermanence, and you can just stay focused on the breath. Okay? All right, so let me see if we have any questions on Facebook or YouTube. Let's see here. Oh, it looks like Fiona has a question as well. While my Facebook is loading, looks like my Wi-Fi is a little bit slow today. Let me see what Fiona says. She says, "Thank you, teacher. I am supporting a friend in trying to do it the middle way, but sometimes they call me frequently to ask for help, and sometimes I don't answer their call, thinking that if it is urgent, they will leave me a voicemail. Do you have any advice on helping someone the middle way?" What you're doing right there is actually wonderful, Fiona, that you shouldn't answer the phone every single time, because this person's mind will get attached, and then ultimately someday when they can't get you because of impermanence, they won't be able to always get you, they'll end up getting frustrated and agitated, and of course that's their craving, desire, attachment that's doing that. So even if you're sitting right there looking at the phone and doing nothing whatsoever, it's helpful to let it roll to voicemail every once in a while. Don't pick up the phone, and then even wait several hours and even several days sometimes before you call this person back, because their mind has to be able to look inward and figure out some of their problems themselves. If you just constantly feed your friend all the answers, then they're not doing the work themselves, and they need to be able to look inward and be introspective and reflective to be able to solve a lot of these challenges themselves. So where you see that they're calling you frequently, put some more and more space between that, so that it's not just you that they reach out to, but they also have other friends that they can reach out to as well, so they're not dependent on you. That's exactly what you would like to do. Okay, Julia is saying, thank you, teacher. Is it helpful to do breathing meditation prior to doing loving kindness meditation? Does it help condition the mind for the loving kindness? Appreciate all your guidance. The breathing mindfulness meditation helps prepare the mind for loving kindness meditation. When we use that word condition, that's actually an unwholesome thing. We're not interested in conditioning the mind, because that's like taking on the burden. That's like taking on pollution in the mind. So it does help prepare your mind so that your mind is prepared, and also you're focusing on the breath. That's wonderful to do breathing mindfulness meditation before loving kindness meditation. I teach to do breathing mindfulness meditation after loving kindness meditation, because you guys can see that we went there for a little while to do some breathing mindfulness meditation after loving kindness. But that is something that you can do optionally, right? Like if you're doing loving kindness meditation and you're noticing that you're angered and frustrated and agitated and annoyed, doing that breathing mindfulness meditation at the end will help you to cut that off so that you can come out of the meditation feeling better. But if you're at the end of your loving kindness meditation and you're noticing all the loving kindness permeating in the mind, and it's kind of filling up the mind and enveloping the mind, there's no need to go back to the breathing mindfulness meditation. Just let that loving kindness permeate in the mind and just end your meditation with that, because then you can allow that to permeate into your day-to-day life, because your mind is now permeating and enveloped with this loving kindness. By the time you cultivate loving kindness fully, and it's fully developed in the mind and brought to full growth and full perfection, you won't be able to cut it off, because it's unconditional. With what we consider to be conditioned feelings, or what some people think love is, which is really craving, desire, attachment, where you can actually cultivate true love, love without attachment, which is unconditional love, which is this loving kindness. If you have an unconditioned mental state, you can't cut it off and eliminate it. So the peace, the joy, the contentedness, the calmness of the enlightened mind, the concentration, the loving kindness, the compassion, all these different mental qualities that are cultivated as part of the journey to enlightenment, they're unconditioned, and you actually won't be able to cut them off. But at the end of your meditation, as you're developing your mind, it's helpful to allow that loving kindness to just permeate in the mind, if that's what it's doing. But if you notice at the end of your meditation that you're a bit annoyed or frustrated, that's where the breathing mindfulness meditation at the end can come in. Because when I used to first do this meditation, I used to do it for myself and my mom. And sometimes I would start the meditation, and prior to starting the meditation, my mind was, kind of fine. I was just interested in cultivating some loving kindness. But after going through the loving kindness meditation and including my mom, I would think back to the things that happened when I was a child, and it would produce this anger arising in my mind, because I'd be clinging to an experience that happened in the past when I was a child, and doing this loving kindness meditation on my mom reminded me of that. So that helped me to ultimately get rid of that and cut that off. But that's why I needed the breathing mindfulness meditation at the end of the loving kindness meditation to be able to cut those kinds of things off. But where you're noticing that the loving kindness is permeating in the mind, no need to actually go back to the breathing mindfulness if you're not interested. And even that first breathing mindfulness meditation at the beginning of the loving kindness, if you're not interested in doing that, you don't need to do that either, because as you develop your breathing mindfulness meditation practice more readily, you'll be able to just sync up with the breath really easily. You'll have awareness of the mind. But when you're first getting started like this, like many people are in the group learning program, it's better to start with the breathing mindfulness meditation. So excellent there. Thank you for your questions. I noticed Chrissy had her hand up. I guess maybe she put it back down because of maybe I answered the question there. But if you have a question, Chrissy, you can raise your hand and I'll help you. Let's see. There we go. Chrissy's still got a question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, my service is a little bit spotty here, so I apologize if there's a little bit of permanence.
No worries.
my question is about how to practice the middle way when it comes to loving kindness towards bugs. It's been noticed that mosquitoes, for example, when they land on me and bite me, there's no reaction. It doesn't make the body itchy or mark on me. So I pointed that out to my children, and I have been practicing not killing them, and just shooing them away. And so my daughter started doing this, but she has a very big reaction to mosquitoes. It's like itchy and painful. So I'm wondering if you have any advice as to direct her when there is a mosquito biting her. Now she doesn't want to kill it or shoo it away in case she kills it, because she doesn't want to cause it harm. And she thinks if enough bite her that she might not have a reaction like is happening to this body.
Okay, so when mosquitoes are landing on you, one of the best things to do is blow them off, like this, because oftentimes when we swipe with our hand, it does kind of crush them because their body's so small. But if you did swipe them with your hand and they did die, there's no intention to harm behind it. So there's no craving, there's no anger, there's no ignorance there, that you're choosing to live compassionately with loving kindness for all these beings. So even if you swipe a bug off and it actually happens to die, there's no intention there. So there's no unwholesome karma associated with that. But oftentimes with mosquitoes, I usually blow them off because of that reason, that they're very delicate. And one of the ways to cultivate loving kindness and compassion for all beings, including insects and things like this, is to use a teaching that the Buddha teaches, which is he shares that because we've all been reborn countless times in the past, that it would be near impossible to encounter a being in this life that hasn't previously been our mother, our father, our brother, our sister, our son, or daughter, or some other relative. So when that mosquito lands, you can think of it like your grandmother or your mother or your father or some other relative like this, your son or your daughter. And that's how you can cultivate this loving kindness and compassion for them. Not just bugs, but also human beings too, that rather than have the perspective of this is a stranger, have the perspective of this is a family member that I haven't met yet. Because what the path to enlightenment is doing is it's changing your perspective of how you look out at the world. And oftentimes our mind is conditioned to think that strangers are bad, and we're kind of given this analogy that strangers are bad. Well, if we never talk to strangers, we would never meet anybody new, because everybody's a stranger, right? We don't know anybody when we're first born, and as we're going through life, we don't know anybody. Or if we move to a new area, a new location, we don't know anybody. So if we never talk to strangers, we wouldn't know anybody. So rather than think of it as strangers, think about it as, hey, this is a family member I just haven't met yet. So there's no harm in having a conversation with someone you haven't met yet. And this is a family member. So when they're landing on her, if she blows them off, that would be best. One of the best things to do with insects is to use some kind of repellent. They have this thing in America, and I imagine they have it other places too. It's a natural product. It's made out of oil. It's sold by Avon, and if you know Avon, they have this oil. I forget the name of it. I think it's called Soft and Beautiful or something like this. And this oil, it smells really great, and it's just an oil. And it actually repels mosquitoes. So it's not a chemical-based thing. It's just an oil. So if you would like to get something like that, if your daughter wears that, then the mosquitoes will tend to not land on her because of that oil being on her skin. And this way, she won't have to deal with those kinds of things and the bugs biting her. And I imagine it repels other kind of bugs too. So yeah, great question there, Chrissy. Okay, I say thank you. This is so helpful. You're welcome. Is it Skin So Soft? Yes, that's what it's called. Skin So Soft. Yeah, exactly. If you have some of that, that has been known to be a repellent of mosquitoes. And I used to use this because my mom used to sell Avon. So that's how I know about it, is I used to use this when I was a kid. Yeah, so that'll be perfect for you. Okay, so it looks like time for Yusuf to ask your questions. Go ahead, sir.
Hi again. My internet got lost, so I didn't hear the last words you said. So I will just say the point of my question, which is how to continue our relationship. Should I just like leave it or like ask about how is he like once a week? Because I don't know what to do here.
Yeah, you have an expectation for your friends to be a certain way. This is clear because of the number of questions that you've asked recently, both publicly and privately. You're having these expectations of your friends to be a certain way. And in order for you to have healthy and harmonious relationships, you're going to need to eliminate those expectations, because all you're doing is you're experiencing impermanence here. Your friend was functioning in one way in the past, and now he's changed. And with your mind craving him to ask certain things about you, you're of the thinking that maybe I should end this relationship because he doesn't ask about my life and he's not interested in me. Well, that's just the ego, and that's just craving, like he should be interested in you. If you are not having expectations of your friends and the people around you, you can just love all beings. So I wouldn't have any kind of specific schedule of checking in with him once a week. This is attachment, where if you literally checked in on all your friends once a week, you could only have about 5 or 10 friends. Where what you would like to get to is where there isn't any attachment. There's people that I haven't seen for years and years and years. There was a gentleman that came last year here to Thailand, and I haven't heard from him for like 9 years, and I even forgot about him because we weren't really like close friends. We were just kind of acquaintances. We used to play mandolin together, and he contacted me out of the blue and he said, "Hey David, I'm going to be in Bangkok and I was thinking to fly up to Chiang Mai and say hello and spend some time with you." And I was like, "Sweet, yeah, it'd be great to see you." I actually even forgot what he looked like, so I had to look at his picture online to see what he looked like, so when I saw him that I would recognize him, because it wasn't really that much of a relationship. We used to just come together and play mandolin with a bunch of friends at different times. So I had no expectation of hearing from this person for the last 9 years. But when he contacted me and said, "Hey, I'd like to come see you and spend some time," hey, perfect, let's spend some time together, right? So if you eliminate your expectation of wanting people to be a certain way, you can have thousands and thousands and thousands of friends. And then if they don't have expectations of you, then when you guys cross paths and you need to communicate and you need to talk about something, then you do that. And when you don't need to talk and you don't need to communicate, then you don't talk and you don't communicate. But if there's this expectation that you should check in on him on a certain frequency, or he should do a certain thing a certain way, this is just craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations, and you guys will be discontent and you won't be able to maintain a healthy, harmonious relationship.
Okay, so what are you advising here to do? Like, what would you do if you were in my place? Would you check on him or to leave it?
What I would do if I was you is eliminate your attachment, eliminate your craving, eliminate your wants and expectations for him to be a certain way. And I wouldn't necessarily check in on anybody. Like, I have friends, I have people that I know, but I don't check in on them, because if there's a problem that they have, then they're going to contact me, right? There's people here in Chiang Mai that I've hung out with over like a period of time, like maybe a father of one of my son's friends. And I see this person when we go to football games, and I see this like soccer, and I see this person, his wife is friends with my wife, and I see them like when we go out to dinner together. But I'm not calling him and checking in like, "How you doing? What's everything going on?" But when we're together, like if our wives schedule something and we happen to be at the restaurant together, then we spend time together and have great conversation. Or if we end up at a football game together because our sons are playing football game, then we have a great conversation. But all other times during the day and during the month and during the year, we don't need to constantly check in on each other. That's something that we do when we're very young, because we think that that's what a relationship involves. We have the expectation that if someone doesn't call and check in on me, that somehow there's something wrong with this relationship, or somehow this person doesn't care about me because they're not calling to check in on me. But this is just an expectation. This is just an attachment. So I don't suggest you check in on any of your friends, right? You just go about your life and you just do things and spend time with the people that you spend time with. Call your friends up and say, "Hey, would you like to go out for a smoothie? Would you like to go out for some food? Hey, I'm going to the movies. Are you interested in coming?" And sometimes they're going to say yes, and sometimes they're going to say no. And when you guys go out, you go out and have a great time. And when you don't go out, you don't go out, right? So you don't need to like constantly check in on people, because this forms an expectation that I'm not a good friend unless I check in on my friends. This isn't the way to live a good life and a harmonious life with lots and lots of friends in your life. You could only be friends with 5 or 10 people that way.
Okay, so you advised me before to not talk about myself until someone asks. And now you say do not check on others. So if I have a friend on Facebook that I can't meet, so like if I don't check on him and I can't call him to meet in a certain place, then how will we gonna talk? How our friendship will continue here?
Well, when you would like to see your friend and you'd like to invite them out for a smoothie or go to the movies or spend some time at your house together, then you call them and say, hey, would you like to hang out? Would you like to spend some time together? Like even my sister, right? My blood sister. Like I don't call her and check in on her and say, hey, you know, how are you doing? What are you doing? How's this? How's that? But my wife is getting ready to go to the USA and she's going to be close by where my sister lives. And I sent my sister a message and said, hey, my wife's coming to the USA. And she's like, oh, I'd like to spend some time with her. And I was like, oh, great. So we talked a little bit and we exchanged the things that we need to talk about. And then that's it, right? We probably haven't talked for a good 3 months or 6 months. So if you value your relationship based on the frequency of calling or whether you call and check in on people, this isn't going to lead to beneficial results. So if you would like to spend time with people, spend time with people. But showing up or calling people and just talking about yourself, like we've talked about before, this is just the ego wanting to broadcast, like, look at me, look at all the things that I'm doing. Instead, it's like, hey, I don't know your friend's name, but hey, Robert, hey, John, hey, Rebecca, you interested in hanging out this Friday? And they're like, yeah, sure, right? And they may be interested to hang out. They may not. And if they say no, they're not interested, that doesn't mean that they don't like you, they don't enjoy spending time with you, they just have something else going on. So you're going to need to be comfortable with them saying, no, I'm not going to hang out this Friday. But then when you do go hang out, ask them, hey, how you doing? How things been? What are you up to? Right? If I saw this one person that I was referencing here in Chiang Mai, that his wife is friends with my wife and our kids play football together, if I saw him at the football game, I'd say, hey, Tom, how you doing? How you been? What's up? Right? I would check in on them at that point when we're crossing paths, but I'm not going to make this extra effort to check in on all these people because, gosh, you know how many thousands and thousands of students that learn with me and how many different friends and family members that I interact with. And that's what you would like to be able to do, is have all these different people that are part of your life. And this is the way that you actually can have lots of relationships, that you don't have to maintain a relationship. Oftentimes we think that there are certain things that you have to do in order to maintain this relationship. These are like obligations and expectations. Even my own wife, sometimes she wakes up early in the morning and she goes off and does her things. I come down a little bit later after her and I go do my things. And sometimes she comes home before me and she's up in her room and I don't even see her. Even though we live in the same house, there's days I don't even see her. It doesn't mean we don't love each other, we don't care about each other, but we just don't have a need or a purpose to see each other on that particular day. Right? So each person is working towards accomplishing various goals in their life and helping other people at the same time. So if we are constantly checking in on each other, it's giving you this extra task that is taking you away from just applying effort and energy towards accomplishing whatever it is you need to accomplish in the world and helping other people. Because whatever you're accomplishing in the world, if you're basing it in generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, it's helping other people. So if I had to call around and check on all my students and check on all my family members and all my friends, I wouldn't have the time to have these classes like this, or I wouldn't have time to help people with personal guidance and other things like this.
Most of the guys I know on Facebook are online friends. I can't hang out with them. So if I don't check on them, they will end our friendship or something like this. So should I never talk to them? Because I can't hang out with them, as I said.
Yeah, so if somebody's basing their relationship with you on whether or not you check in on them or not, they're attached to you. They're having an expectation, and that relationship isn't going to be successful anyway because they're going to become discontent when you don't check in on them. And you're not interested in relationships that have attachment because they're just going to have discontentedness. So if somebody ends your relationship because you don't do a particular thing, so be it. Right? If you don't let this person borrow $100, they're going to end your relationship, so be it. it's the same kind of thing. It's just not money. It's if you don't call and check in on me on a regular schedule, or if you don't send me a Facebook message on a regular schedule, I'm going to stop being friends with you. So be it, because that's just attachment. That's just them clinging to you, having expectations. And you're not interested in relationships like this because it's just going to produce discontentedness in their mind. And if you're attached, it's going to produce discontentedness in your mind as well.
I don't fully understand this, what you are talking about here. So can I ask some more question related, or to move to the other questions I have because the time is limited?
You can ask all the questions you like. The reason why your mind isn't understanding this is because you haven't lived your life this way. And I used to live my life the same way as you. I used to have certain friends when I was younger, in my early 20s, that I would call once a week or once a month, and I would check in on them and all this kind of stuff. And I realized, like, oh my goodness, I can't really have more than about 5 or 10 friends because I'm constantly busy just calling people and checking in on them and seeing how they're doing in life. It's such a burden that you carry on your shoulders. So what I'm sharing with you is a new way of life. It's this better way of life that your mind doesn't understand, and it will struggle to understand, and it will struggle to practice. But that's exactly why, yes, asking more questions and trying to understand it is exactly what you should do.
Okay, so I guess I have the last question related to this topic. So what will happen to me next, as you advised me to not talk about myself, what I used to do the last week is to go on them, check on them. Oh, how are you? What are you doing? What's up today? And things like this. So if I'm not interested in doing that, now talking about myself, here I will be like going for months without talking to any of my friends. Is that what you are saying here?
Well, if you guys are doing things together, if you guys have a purpose to be together or communicate together, then communicate with purpose, right? So if you'd like to check in on your friends, go ahead. But what I'm sharing with you is that you're only going to be able to have 5 or 10 friends this way. It's going to be very limited. And if you go into relationships where you just talk about yourself, this is your ego, and people aren't really interested in hearing about that, because that was one of the things that you asked me. You said that when you talk about yourself, your friends aren't interested and they don't pay attention to what you're saying. And that's what I said, yeah, because they haven't asked you about yourself. Why would you just go into a conversation and just start yap about yourself if somebody hasn't asked you about what's going on in your life? So there's never a time where I just show up in a conversation and say, by the way, let me tell you everything that's going on in my life, right? That's not what you would like to do in a conversation. You would like to ask people questions like, so how have you been? What have you been up to? Nice to see you. You know, you ask them questions. And if they would like to ask you questions, then they ask you questions. And if they don't, then they don't ask you questions. But your mind has an expectation that they ask you questions about your life because you're asking them questions. In the past, you've said, well, they don't ever ask me questions about my life. And there, you don't like that conversation. You're not interested in that conversation because your mind wants to talk about your life. And that's the ego. And that's what I've shared with you, is you need to eliminate that.
Sorry, you didn't really answer my question, so I'll ask it again. Will I be going for like a month without talking to them because I will not talk about myself, nor ask them about how they are doing? So I will be going for months without talking to them, right?
I answered your question, Yusuf. You just might not have heard it at the beginning. I said that whatever you choose to do is up to you. I'm not going to tell you to not talk to your friends for a period of months, and I'm not going to tell you to talk to your friends for a period of months. But what I'm sharing with you is that if you go out and you are constantly checking in on your friends, you're going to find that you're burdened with this craving, this desire, and now your friends are going to have this expectation that you are going to check in on them. And if you don't check in on them, they're going to get frustrated and they're going to get agitated. So you're building attachment into your relationships. And what I'm sharing with you is that's not going to promote harmonious and healthy relationships. Whether you choose to contact your friends or not is up to you. But you already see that you're having problems in your relationships. That's why a lot of your questions recently have revolved around relationships, because you're having problems in these relationships and you don't know how to sort it out. So what the unenlightened mind is looking for for is just tell me how to do it, teacher. Should I contact them every month? Should I not contact them every month? Just tell me how to do it. Well, that's like rules and commandments, and that's not what the Buddha is teaching you. The Buddha is teaching you to get rid of your pollution out of your mind, move to this higher consciousness, and make wise decisions based on your wisdom. This path isn't about a teacher telling you what you should do or what you shouldn't do. We're here to explain to you the natural laws so that then as you're purifying your mind and eliminating the pollutions, you can move to this higher consciousness, and then you can make wise choices that's wise for you. What I'm sharing with you is the natural law of karma, that if you burden yourself with a bunch of checking in on your friends, you're not going to be able to maintain lots of relationships. If you burden yourself with checking in on your friends, they're going to get attached to this. They're going to have this expectation. And when someday you don't call and check on them, maybe they're used to you calling every 7 days, but you contact them after 10 days, they're going to get angry and they're going to get frustrated. Your relationship's going to end. So it's really unwise to build into your relationship attachments. And I'm explaining to you this natural law of karma, and then you choose on your own how to practice. Your teacher is not going to tell you what you should do or what you shouldn't do as a rule or a commandment, but instead I'm going to share with you the wisdom of the natural law of karma. You need to learn that, reflect on it to independently verify it, and then practice it, and so that you can see the truth for yourself. And it's going to feel strange, it's going to feel odd, because you're used to constantly checking in on your friends. And if you choose not to check in on your friends, it's going to feel strange and it's going to feel odd, because the mind doesn't like this impermanence. It's craving to contact your friends on a regular schedule. And when you start shifting away from that, your mind's not getting its cravings fulfilled, and it's going to feel uncomfortable and feel strange. But ultimately, when you work your way through this and you cultivate the wisdom and you see this better way of life, you're going to see that you're going to be able to have many more relationships, and much more healthy, long-lasting, sustaining, and fulfilling relationships, where right now you're having trouble with that because of the way you're conducting yourself in your relationships.
I'm asking you to teach me what to do and how to do it, because as an enlightened being, my mind used to have either aversion and walk away, or attachment and walk towards that thing. But now when I have neither of those, I just don't know how to do it, and I can't find the answer by reflecting. It is just that I don't know how to do it. This is what I am asking you to teach me.
Right. So what you're describing is not the middle way. You're on one side or the other. And what I'm describing to you is the middle way, but you're having difficulties understanding that. What I'm describing to you is to just contact your friends when you have a purpose to contact them, when there's some purpose of something that you're going to be doing together or some conversation that you need to have. Like my sister, I mentioned to you that I haven't contacted her for probably 3 months, but I had a purpose to contact her because my wife's coming to the USA, and I was interested in letting her know that because I had a feeling that she'd be interested to know that my wife's coming to the USA. So there was a purpose behind our conversation. So what you're doing right now is you're on one side or the other, and this is why you're having difficulties in your relationships. I don't have those difficulties in relationships. All my relationships are at ease and completely peaceful, and I don't have people that are attached to me in my life. So that's why I don't have people yelling and hollering and being hostile and argumentative with me, because they're not attached to me. And this is a beautiful thing, because if I answer my phone or if I answer a text within a couple of hours or a couple of days, I don't have people yelling and hollering and upset with me, because people have learned through the way that I conduct myself that I'm not going to contact them immediately when they send me a text message. And people have learned that I'm not going to call and check in on them. But what they know is they know that David cares about them. And anytime they would like to reach out to me, they're more than welcome to reach out to me. And I'm right here ready to help them. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to tell you exactly how to live your life. I'm going to explain this middle way to you, and then allow you to look at it, understand it, ask questions about it, reflect on it, and then practice it, so that then more and more you can cultivate the wisdom. The middle way isn't black and white. That's what the unenlightened mind is typically looking for. It's looking for black and white. It's looking for a rule. And I noticed this because I know you come from a Muslim country, and even Christians have this too, where they're looking for a rule. They're looking for the black and white because the Bible talks like this, the Quran talks like this. So you get used to kind of that kind of way of being. But you need to be able to see that what the Buddha's guiding you towards is the ability to make wise decisions on your own. So I'm going to describe to you the natural law, help you to understand it. You can ask questions about it, but you're going to need to practice what I'm sharing with you, which is I suggest that you don't contact your friends and check in on them all the time. I don't suggest that you do those kinds of things. But I also don't suggest you go completely far away from your friends either and never contact them. Instead, you contact them every once in a while and say, hey, would you like to hang out? Or would you like to go have dinner? Or would you like to have a smoothie together? Right? Those kinds of things. And then when you're together, hey, how are you doing? How's life? What have you been up to? Right? There's no harm in doing that kind of thing, but doing it on a regular schedule would be unwise. So say you have a certain friend that you would like to go to dinner with. You might send them a message, say, hey, how you doing? What's up? What's going on? Hey, are you free this Friday? Right? You can do that kind of thing. But if you did it on a weekly schedule, this is just inviting attachment and expectations, and this relationship is going to end in discontentedness.
Okay, I will ask a related question about the topic we discussed maybe last week. It is about talking about myself and that is egoic and some things like this. Is boasting about like my self, my form, or boasting about my hobbies, such as I am drawing, this is my drawings, or boasting about like photos that I like. Is this considered like egoic, or I can do this? I can have interest in this.
It's not about what you can and can't do. Again, that's like a rule, right? It's not about what you can and can't do. It's about understanding that when you go into a situation and you're boasting about your artwork or you're boasting about photos that you've taken, this is the ego being arrogant and prideful. And now when other people are around you and you're being arrogant and prideful, they see that, they see your ego, and they will tend to reject you and push you away. This is again why you're having challenges in your relationships, because with the ego there, people are going to reject you and they're not going to be interested. So because some of your friends are so used to you showing up and just talking about yourself all the time, that's why they're not interested in talking with you or interested in listening to you, because it's like, oh my goodness, here he comes again just to talk about himself. Right? It's like, that's kind of like the way people probably think, and like, my goodness, why do I want to listen to this guy for another 30 minutes about talking about himself? I haven't even asked him any questions and he's just rambling on about himself. And I know that this probably isn't 100% true, and I'm just painting a picture to be able to help you see how somebody's mind might perceive this, right? So what you would like to do is you'd like to be very skillful, and you like to be present in your conversations, and you'd like to have a dialogue back and forth where you're inviting people to answer certain questions. And when they ask you questions, then you share that information with them. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're going to have so much deep wisdom in your mind. If you told everybody everything that's in your mind, you'd have a 5-year conversation with every single person that you talk to. So you're going to need to learn how to talk to a certain level of degree. And then when people show interest and they ask more questions, you go deeper. And then when they ask more questions, you go deeper. And they ask more questions, you go deeper. So you're going to need to learn how to talk kind of at a surface level. And then when people ask more questions, you go deeper into whatever topic that they show interest in. And that way, you'll know that when you're having a conversation, the person you're talking to is always interested in what it is you have to say, because you're only replying to them based on the things that they ask you about. So when I go to lunch, like I went to lunch today with 3 students, they invited me to lunch. I only talked about things that they asked me questions about. When they asked me questions, I answered it, right? And there's times where I added some extra content to be able to help them understand, but I didn't just sit down at lunch and start telling them all about my life. I sat down at lunch to have lunch, and then as they asked me questions, I just answered them based on the questions that they asked. And those questions could have been about the Buddhist teachings or about their own life or about my life or any number of things. But they were interested in the conversation because it was being driven by their questions, not by just me broadcasting about the things that I was interested to talk about. Chrissy?
First, I wanted to say, I don't know how to say your name, but what a great sport. I think that if this were me, my ego would be hurt a little bit. And I love the continued questions because they're very helpful. um, so my question is, I've been on the other end of this, and I don't know how to respond lovingly. For instance, okay, this is my life partner, but it's the constant questions and unpurposeful conversations, or messages, like when life is really busy, the checking in. And there's been some conversation about it to try to explain that I love you, but I don't often have the time to sit and reply to these messages all day. So I'm wondering what your advice would be to handle that situation with a life partner.
Yeah, with a life partner, it's different. Yusuf, with friends, it's just they're just friends. But with a life partner, this is someone who's significant in your life, and you're going to need to probably sit down and talk with this person and just have a warm conversation, as you have done in the past, it sounds like. But you're going to need to add more content to that and say, hey, I love you. I enjoy spending time with you. And, when we're together, it's great. And when we're not together, if you're curious to check in every once in a while, feel free. You can contact me whenever you like, but I'm just unfortunately not going to be able to reply to all your messages. So then when they start messaging you, because they will have craving, because they're not training their mind, just don't reply to some of them. Because once you've kind of said up front, like, hey, I'm not going to reply, they understand that you're not being rude, you're not just ignoring them. It's not that you don't love them. It's just that you have other things going on in your day-to-day life, and letting them know, like, hey, you're important to me, but I just have other things that I need to do. And when we're together, we'll definitely spend time together. And I can answer your messages every once in a while, but not every day. So what you would like to do is, when they start sending those messages, is ignore them a few times. And then this will help them to eliminate their craving. Because if every time they send you a message, if you reply, it's going to feed their craving, because they're getting those pleasant feelings when they're craving and they send you a message and they get a reply back, especially if it's within a couple of minutes. They're getting those pleasant feelings, and it's reinforcing their craving, like, thank goodness I did this. It's almost like a drug. It's like an addiction, right? Where you need to keep having your fix, my Chrissy fix. When it's time for my Chrissy fix, I'm going to send her a message and get my fix, right? It's like an addiction. And what you're interested in doing is like not feeding that addiction, so that this craving can be extinguished over time. So you're going to need to have a really loving conversation, if you haven't already had one of those recently, and then start ignoring the messages from that point forward, and only maybe reply to every third one or every sixth one or something like that. Okay, I think that helps you, Chrissy. If you have any follow-ups, just raise your hand again. All right, so we'll go back to you, Yusuf. You've got some more questions. Oh, Chrissy's got a follow-up. 1 second.
I apologize. It wasn't letting me unmute.
Okay.
So then my follow-up question would be how to handle the hurt feelings then afterwards. Even, when it explains, okay, this is not something that I can do multiple times a day, every day, and then practice the pause, and continue to focus on work and children and the busyness of life. And then the hurt feelings, and to the point of it possibly ruining the relationship, which isn't something I'm interested in doing, but it is understood that sometimes it may be hard to have a relationship with someone who, like the distance between us. We have quite a bit of distance between us. So I think that expectation to respond to a text when so far away is a reasonable expectation that I'm failing to meet.
Yeah, any expectation at all is going to end in discontentedness. Any expectation, because you can't fulfill that expectation permanently. It's not possible. So you're close enough to your partner, and you guys have had a long enough relationship, because I know you guys, and he knows that you're into these teachings, that when you're having that warm, loving conversation with him, if you know that he's going to have hurt feelings when you ignore his message, you can address that in your conversation before you start ignoring messages. You can help him to understand, honey, I'm sure that when I start not replying to your messages, you probably don't want to use the word ignore, right? When I'm not replying to your messages, you may end up feeling sad, or you may feel lonely or bored, or these other kinds of feelings. And this is your craving. And I love you so much that I'm not interested in you having craving. I value this relationship so much that I'm not interested in you being attached to me. And the more that you're attached, the more that you're craving, the more that I'm attached and I'm craving, we're going to have discontentedness in our relationship. And in order for us to detangle this and get to the peace and the joy that we can have in our relationship, this is what we need to be able to do. Is we need to be able to be together and spend time and enjoy that time and love each other and do all the things that we do as a couple. But then when we're apart, we need to have a life apart where we can feel comfortable and peaceful and joyful apart. But if we feel miserable and we feel horrible when we're apart, this is the craving, desire, attachment. It's not the love that's making us feel miserable. So when you're not feeling good when we're apart, it's not going to make you feel better to contact me. That's actually reinforcing the cause of the problem. See, the mind, when it feels like he misses you, or he's feeling lonely or bored, or he's worried about you, he thinks the way to solve that problem is to contact you and get some kind of message that says, I'm okay, I'm doing fine. And he thinks that's going to solve his loneliness or his missing you or his boredom or his worry. But that's not going to solve the problem. The problem is the discontentedness. The problem is the missing you, the loneliness, the boredom. The cause of this problem is the craving, desire, attachment. So him contacting you and then you replying to him is feeding the craving, and it's just allowing the craving to continue. So if you can help him to understand craving, desire, attachment, and by you not replying to his message, he can eliminate his craving. And then when he's away from you, he can still love you. He can still have fun thoughts of you, but he's not attached to you, and he's not feeling those miserable feelings when he's away from you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's the step I missed, was like trying to explain the craving and attachment versus love, and prepare that he might feel hurt. And also, maybe would it be wise to suggest to do things to take his mind off of it?
Yes, if he goes out and does other things, because he needs to have a life outside of Chrissy, right? Because when he's with you, he has this life with Chrissy, and when he's away, his mind is longing, yearning for that life with Chrissy. And he needs to be able to be peaceful and joyful and content when he's with Chrissy, but he needs to be the same way when he's without Chrissy too. So he needs to have that life outside of Chrissy. So if he hasn't already seen the teachings where I've taught the Four Noble Truths, or love without attachment, true love, love without attachment, you could have him watch those videos. And he's even welcome to contact me privately when he's having these kind of challenges, and I will help him, right, to get over those cravings, because that's what's going to ensure you guys have a long-lasting, sustaining relationship, is for him to eliminate his cravings. Oftentimes we think the way to maintain a relationship is to grab on tighter and hold on tighter, and that might be what his mind's doing, is trying to hold on tight, thinking that he's going to lose the relationship. And that's what your mind's doing to a certain degree too. But you end up sabotaging it because you crush the relationship. It's actually the more loose that you hold the relationship, that you just hold it in your hand and support it, that's when you actually have long-lasting, sustaining relationships. But you guys haven't had one of those kind of relationships before, so it feels so foreign to you. It feels so different to you guys. So that's why learning through the videos and getting the wisdom of the Four Noble Truths and true love, love without attachment, is part of that. But then also talking to somebody when you're missing this person. So like when your life partner is missing you, or he's bored, or he's lonely, having somebody to reach out to and having a meditation practice, these things is what's going to eliminate the attachment to you, because he's finding his source of happiness in Chrissy. But when he's away from Chrissy, he can't be happy, and he can't be with you permanently. So the deeper his attachment is, the more pain he's going to feel when he's away from you. And the more his mind's going to try to grab onto you because he thinks that that's what's going to solve the problem. But that's because he's misunderstanding the cause, which is craving, desire, attachment. In his mind, he thinks the reason why he's feeling those painful feelings is because he's not with you, because his mind's craving permanence. But he needs to be able to see the wisdom that the reason why his mind's feeling those painful feelings is because of his craving, desire, attachment. And the Buddha teaches that when there's someone that you're close to like this, that it's wise for you to help them understand the Four Noble Truths.
Okay. Are you thinking one of maybe the mini series or the longer series?
Whichever one that he would like, whichever one is best for him. I've shared it in the long classes, I've shared it in the mini series, the written book, the audio book privately, and I can explain it to him. All these options available, the podcast, I've made all these options available so that whatever works best for them, they can digest it in that way.
Thank you so much, Teacher David. It's really appreciated.
Yeah, you're welcome. When you guys figure this out, relationships are so rewarding and so fulfilling and so satisfying. But until you figure this out, relationships can feel really challenging and sometimes even miserable because there's just such a drag and such a burden and so much discontentedness sometimes in a relationship. So you guys figuring this out together and with my help, you guys can have a wonderful relationship together. Okay, so let's go to this one. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Is it Neftali? If you would like to ask your question, you're welcome to.
Yeah, it's Neftali. But I go by Nate.
Okay, great. Welcome, Nate.
Yeah, my thing is that I've struggled with anger. But through meditation, I've healed my anxiety, my depression, but I have anger still. That's the thing I'm dealing with right now. It's anger.
Okay.
It comes and goes. It comes and goes. It comes and goes. I'm aware of it. My meditation practice is very strong now. So 2 years ago, I got really sick, and then I found the Buddha. I'm like, I couldn't find it in Christianity. I don't know. For me, the Buddha has actually healed my anxiety, and it was bad for many years, and then I just healed it through meditation, And I was just so much more happier, But I'm still dealing with anger.
Sure. So there's more teachings here that you need to put together than just what you're doing so far. That's why your mind doesn't yet have the wisdom of all these other tools and techniques that you need. So I have various resources to be able to help you. The main thing to help you is loving kindness meditation. We actually just did a loving kindness meditation session together. That's what you would like to implement, but you need some other teachings with that it's not just going to be loving kindness meditation that's going to help with your anger. So you can contact me privately if you like, and I'll send you some links to the books, the podcast, the videos, everything. It's all available at no cost to you. Or you can just get on our website and you can find it yourself if you like. It's buddhadailywisdom.com.
Also, one thing, because I was raised really religious, I've noticed something in my religion. I think it gave me fear, because I was like 4 or 5 days ago, I was praying, and then I felt like fear out of it, and I've never felt anything like that. And then I started realizing that when I went into practicing more of the Buddhism, I felt calmer and everything. I felt more reassured and confident in myself. The shyness is gone, everything. It's just the anger, like it's just there. All right, well, I'll get a hold of you, man.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta.
Yeah, if you just get to the website, because there's more than just one thing to teach you. And I have various programs that you can take, and it's all available at no cost that you can gradually learn. And what you'll ultimately be able to see is that there's a lot of similarities between Christianity and the Buddhist teachings, but people don't always focus on those. So I'll help you out, but you'll just need to reach out through the website. You'll see the links to my private email, to my phone, to Line or WhatsApp, or however you'd like to contact me, even on Facebook and things like that.
All right, man. Well, thank you, David. I mean, I'm pretty, I got sick 2 years ago. That's why I went into meditation, and actually it's healed me from a lot of things. I think it had to happen. and there's no. I'm just really calm. I just got out of meditation, so have a very pleasant day.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for your kind words, and just know that there's help here for you. So just as you reach out, I'll help you out.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, Yusuf, back to you, sir.
First, hi, Chrissy. I am from a Muslim place, so my name in the Quran is pronounced Yusuf. But as Teacher David say, and I say it, is Yusuf. So yeah, I will continue with a following question about what we discussed, because as I said, the ego is feeling terrified now. So I don't want to leave it not fully understanding what you are saying. So I have, as I said, I have a Facebook account, and I am posting like photos that I like and videos that I like on it. I know it is egoic. I do that because I want others to see it. I want attention. I want they to say to like say, oh, those photos, those videos are beautiful. I want them to contact me. I know it's egoic, but as you said, should I like leave that thing? Please don't say that. I will not say it's rules or commandments. Just say what you will do, because I don't want to be the ego more right now, because it's already terrified. So yeah.
Okay, so since you know that you're posting these things based in ego, based in your craving, it's best to distance yourself from that and restrain your mind from doing that. And you need to be able to do that for a period of time while you're working on eliminating your cravings and you're eliminating your ego. And as you're working to eliminate that, at some point in the future, you'll be able to post these kinds of things, because the harm isn't the post. That's not what's causing the difficulties here. What's causing the difficulties is the pollution in the mind, the craving, the longing, the yearning, and the ego. So if you continue to do these things, then it's just allowing the craving and the ego to continue. That's like when I was talking to Chrissy, like her life partner continuing to contact her isn't going to solve his problem, because the craving just continues. But you need to have the wisdom to understand that if you allow these things to continue and you don't restrain your mind, then you're just allowing the pollution to continue to exist in the mind. So you're going to need to restrain the mind and distance yourself from these kinds of things. So I encourage you to stop to post for an extended period of time. We're probably talking at least 6 months where you're not posting those kinds of things. And it'll be difficult. It'll be challenged. You're not going to be able to just probably snap your fingers and stop doing it, because you can tell yourself right now that you're not going to do it. And then like 2 or 3 days from now, you're going to want to do it. And if that's what you got to do, then do it. But then now go longer than 2 or 3 days, go 4, 5, 6 days, and then try to make it wider and wider and wider and longer and longer and longer, so that you're not continuing to allow the mind to dwell in this ego and this craving.
Well, yeah, I haven't been posting for like 5 months, but it is arising now, the desire, because as I said, the ego is terrified. So the ego have lots of questions to ask. So, but is it okay to post, even though that I don't have an ego craving? Is it okay to post?
Okay, there's no harm in posting. The problem isn't the posting. See, this is where you need to be able to see the middle way. This is where the unenlightened mind wants the teacher to tell you, do I post or do I not post? This isn't the way that an enlightened mind functions, or the person who's getting to enlightenment. You've got to be able to see that if you're posting with ego, then you shouldn't be posting. But that doesn't mean that you never post. That means that you need to be able to see the quality of the mind. So while it sounds like you're saying that you haven't posted for 5 months, okay, that's decent. But the ego is still there, because in that 5-month period, you haven't been doing all the other things you need to be doing in order to eliminate the ego. So getting rid of the posting based in ego is one part of your practice that you need to develop, but then you need to do all these other things in volume 1, chapter 16, to be actively eliminating the ego. So it's not just eliminating the posting for an extended period of time that's going to eliminate the ego. There's other things that you need to be doing to bombard this ego, almost like with a jackhammer, where you're jackhammering the ego and breaking it up and getting rid of it.
is posting photos about my form, ego, right? Because there would be no interest in posting anything about my form unless it's egoic. Look at me, I'm beautiful, or something like this, right?
Yes. For you, yes. But see, my wife, she's a yoga instructor and she's a massage therapist and she helps people work out. So she goes into the gym and she takes pictures of herself working out and she posts it in order to help people understand what she's doing for a job or occupation. So there is the ability to post pictures of this body without ego. But your mind doesn't know how to do that right now. So in the period of time where your mind doesn't know how to do that, you distance yourself from this, and then you train your mind to eliminate your ego, not just by distancing yourself from this activity, but by implementing the other things that you see in Volume 1, Chapter 16 to knock down the ego.
Well, yeah, I do understand that it is in general okay if it's for a job or something like this. But posting a photo, like a selfie for me, it's just egoic. There is no reason to post it, right? In general, not for me, exactly.
For you, it sounds like that, right? But look at my Facebook and look at my Facebook group. I occasionally post photos of me with students that have been taken on a student tour, and I'm typically posting that and inviting people to come on the tour in the future, right? So it's not that you can't post pictures of this body, but it sounds like from everything you're saying, there is ego there. You just need to admit it to yourself and stop doing it and choose to do something different. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to continue to experience the ego arising, and you're interested in eliminating that from the mind.
Yeah, okay. I will move to the other questions
Okay.
about what to do and how to do it. I had something with a friend of mine. That friend is unwholesome. So I decided to end our friendship. I still have loving kindness for him. He did something that is harmful towards me. I still have loving kindness for him. I am not angry at him. So my question is, what I thought to do when I meet him in the street. I will like if he calls me, hi Yusuf, I will say, hi Muhammad. I am not interested in having a friendship with you anymore. You did this. I still have loving. I still love you. I am not angry at you. But is that what I should do?
What did your friend Mohammed do?
Well, he is unwholesome in lots of ways. But what he did do is to say something that is a secret between me and him. I wasn't discontent. No, it's okay. But that is like harmful for him. He shouldn't do that with his friends. They will have aversion towards him.
Okay, so you're going to end your relationship because he told a secret?
Not only one secret, lots of secrets. And also he did another thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you're choosing to end a relationship, it's unwise to confront the person, or even if you happen to see them in the street, and say, I'm sorry, I can't be your friend anymore because of these things. Because those are just your expectations. Those are your cravings that you're listing out. Instead, it's better to just move on. If you happen to see him in the street, you said you have loving kindness for him, so just talk to him. Say, hello, how are you? What are you doing? What are you up to? Okay, nice to see you. See you another time. Take care. Be well. And you just move on. There's no reason why you can't be cordial, you can't be polite, and you can't be respectful. But you're just choosing not to tell him any secrets anymore. That's what I would do if I was you. There's no reason to end the relationship. Just stop telling him secrets, because he's shown you that he can't keep secrets. So just stop telling him secrets then.
Well, he did another thing that made me leave a Telegram group we had. He made it with our friends. So I did leave that group because of the other thing that he did to me. So is this wise, or I can continue be in the group, but not talking to them anymore?
What did he do in the Telegram group?
Is my question clear?
Yeah, what did he do in the Telegram group?
I was joking with a girl in the group because I had a dream about me and her. Mm-hmm. So I was joking about it, and he come to my direct telegram saying that he and his friends he and his friends were thinking that I don't know what is the word, but I guess it is simping to girls in English. that I am doing this to her and to the other girl. So that did harm me. Sorry, that did create discontentedness in my mind. Yeah, I felt disrespectful, but that discontentedness did fade away. And this is the thing that he did.
Okay, so he didn't harm you. Your mind caused your own discontentedness. In order for somebody to harm you, they need to harm you physically, they need to harm your material possessions, or they need to harm your reputation. So in this example, he hasn't harmed you. It's just that you're experiencing painful feelings as a result of your cravings and your expectations and what you want from your friend. And now you think the way to solve the problem is to push him away. That's not going to solve your problem. This is what I was sharing with you earlier, that there's been many questions from you about these types of things, that you have a lot of expectations for your friends. With all these expectations, you're not going to be able to be with friends with anybody unless they function just like you. That's the only way that you can be friends with somebody, because they're not doing what you want and what you expect. And in this situation, you're only going to be friends with yourself, because it's only a matter of time before somebody does something you disagree with and you're going to push them away. So in this situation, they haven't harmed you. Your mind caused your own discontentedness. In your lack of wisdom, the mind thinks that the way to solve this is to push them away, but that's not going to solve the problem.
Yeah, I know that I did cause my own discontentedness, but the other way, he did harm my reputation by saying that secrets in the group we had. So all of the guys there did hear it. It was hurting my reputation. He was saying that I am like simping to all girls. And also, I know him. He's the kind of guy who is going to talk to that girl that he thinks that I did simp to her and tell her that, oh, look, Yusuf is simping to you. So this is hurting my reputation. I don't want, this is a craving that I don't want him to hurt my reputation, but he did.
So stop telling him secrets.
Okay.
The very first time that he exposed one of your secrets, it would have been wise for you to stop telling him secrets at that point. But you didn't have that wisdom. You continued to tell him secrets. You need to see that by you choosing to do something different, you will experience different results in the world. But if he exposed the very first secret the first time and you kept telling him secrets, you're the one who continues to tell him secrets, knowing that he's untrustworthy. And this is what you're continuing to experience the results that you're experiencing. Pushing your friend away isn't going to solve this problem. The way that you solve this problem is stop telling him secrets.
Yeah, okay. I will move to the third question. Yesterday, I was joking with my little sister. So she put her hand on my hand and squeezed it. She did squeeze my hand hard. So I looked at her with a serious look, and without the tone of the loving kindness, I told her, like with a serious tone, I wasn't angry, I wasn't discontent, but I told her to like move your hand, just like this, move your hand, and with a serious look. Does this consider okay, or it's not considered as loving kindness? Because it is, as a bigger brother for her, I was teaching her to not to do that with her bigger brother. That is not disrespectful, but something that she is not interested in doing.
Okay, so once again, Yusuf's mind is having an expectation, and Yusuf is trying to train other people to do things Yusuf's way, right? This is, Yusuf has certain expectations and certain cravings, and the mind wants people to do things your way. And as long as you keep doing this, you're going to keep having problems with person after person after person. So if somebody was doing something to this body that you find to be uncomfortable, you can ask them to stop, or you can pull your hand away so that they can't do that any longer. And then you just choose not to do that. And you can say, please don't do that in the future, right? But talking really strong and really firm, this is like an animalistic instinct. It's like an animal scratches you or touches the body, and now the lion roars and growls at the other animal. And I know it wasn't to that level of degree, but there's essentially that undertone of what you're doing there. But you could have pulled your hand back and smiled and said, sis, please don't do that anymore, right? Like you could be calm and loving and kind, but when you have craving, anger, and ignorance in your mind, you won't be able to do that. But even if you ask your sister, hey, please don't do that anymore, it's very likely that she will. You can't control her. But if your expectation is that she will do things your way, and then when you don't get that expectation fulfilled, you talk rough or harsh or even firm with her, this is promoting an unhealthy relationship. This is the mind almost trying to fear the other person to do things your way. So you would like to get to the point where you can ask people things, you can be polite and warm and friendly, but your peacefulness isn't going to come from training Mohammed and training your sister and training these other people to do things your way. That's not how you get to peacefulness. You've got to eliminate your expectations of people being a certain way. And then when you see somebody harming this body or harming your reputation, you can ask them politely, please don't do that anymore, right? You can talk to people this way, but then ultimately they're going to do whatever they're going to do. So you need to make the decisions yourself. So like say your sister comes to you in the future and she reaches out for your hand. You can look at her and pull your hand back and say, sis, if I give you my hand, are you going to squeeze it like last time? And if she says yes, say, okay, well, I'm not going to give you my hand, right? Because that's a decision that you can make. But if she says, no, I'm not going to squeeze your hand, okay, here you go, right? And you give her your hand if you like. It's up to you. That's where it's not black and white of, this is okay and this isn't okay. It's about you learning how to practice because you can't control whether sister squeezes your hand. You can't control whether Muhammad divulges your secrets or not. But you can control whether or not you tell Muhammad secrets. You can control whether you give your hand to your sister or not. These are things that are within your ability to control. But as soon as you try to control another person through your expectations, this is where your mind's going to stay stuck in discontentedness.
Okay, so is the serious tone and look okay? Because once you were teaching and one of the guys there didn't let you finish what you were saying, so you said to him, I think stop, let me finish, like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like serious. You didn't say, please let me finish, you shouldn't talk like this, like this.
I don't talk firm and harsh with any of my students. I have talked firm with my son occasionally, and this is the only person that I would talk firm with. But when I talk firm, it's just a slight change of my tone. So instead of saying, Bailan, that lying isn't going to get you anywhere, right? Like that's maybe a friendly tone where I might say, Bailan, you got to stop this lying. This doesn't work. It's not going to help you in your life. Right? So you see that there's not much of a difference there, right? So what you're perceiving as me talking firm to a student, I can tell you that it absolutely doesn't happen. I haven't talked firm to any students. I don't talk that way to students. If a student's interested in learning and understanding, I will explain it to them. If they interrupt me, I might try to teach them right speech where I say, one moment, let me finish, and I'll hold up my finger like this, and I'll ask them to pause. But ultimately, if they keep talking, I'll just let them talk. And then after they're done talking, I will say, okay, is it okay if I talk now? And then they will say yes. And then I'll say, okay, I'm going to talk now. Please don't interrupt. Right? And I'm just guiding them in understanding right speech because that's my role as their teacher. But you're not your sister's teacher, and you're not Muhammad's teacher. Your role is not to teach them. Your role is to be their friend or to be their brother. Where you're getting confused is you're seeing the relationship and the role that I'm fulfilling with students, and you're trying to replicate that in your life. But I'm in a different role when I'm talking to students. When I'm talking to my friends, I don't talk the same way that I talk to a student because my role is different. Or if I'm talking to my sister, I talk differently to my sister than I talk to my students. Differently meaning the way in the topics that we talk about. My tone, my tempo, my word choice, all of these things are the same, but I don't teach my sister about the same things that I'm going to teach a student. Like if my sister interrupted me when we were talking, I wouldn't say, hold on a moment, sister, let me talk, remember the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, right? Like, I'm not going to do that kind of thing. So you need to understand your role with your sister and Mohammed are not the same as my role with the students. And this is where your mind is craving this permanence, and you're trying to see what the teacher is doing with the students, and you're thinking that you should be able to apply that in your life too. But that's the mind craving permanence and thinking there's just one right way to do things, where that's why I'm inviting you to be able to see the middle way, where you see, okay, the middle way for me as a teacher is to handle things this way, but the middle way for me to handle things as a brother or a friend is to handle it this way. And that's what you need to be able to learn, is that you're not a teacher, so you're not going to do things the same way that I do in a class, but you need to learn how to be a brother and a friend. And that's what you're not understanding right now. It seems like you're trying to teach other people to meet your expectations, and this isn't going to lead to your peacefulness.
Okay, can I have the last question?
Sure.
The word choice in the in the right speech. I used to say words with my friends such as I don't know how to describe it in English, but describing him like an animal or something like this. I don't think that I can say it on the live stream, but it is like dog or something like this. I say it to him and he say it to me back. Should I be okay? Sorry, should I continue this? Is it okay? It's just like out of joking, not out of disrespecting our anger or something like this. Just out of joking, we say that to each other. So what do you think about this?
If you would like to be the kind of friend that's degrading and diminishing and disparaging other people, you can choose to do that, but you're going to have very difficult relationships like you have. Or you can choose to be a friend that's supportive and encouraging and uplifting. And that's what I would encourage you to do, because that's what an enlightened being does. If you continue to go around and degrade and disparage people, not only are you degrading and disparaging people, and your relationships are going to be very difficult and problematic, but those things are going to come back to you. That's why he says the same things back to you, because that's what you're putting out. So if you're interested in getting to enlightenment, you would learn and cultivate the wisdom and be able to practice being loving and kind and warm and gentle and polite and respectful in all situations. And referring to someone as a dog isn't a polite and respectful way to refer to somebody.
Even though that I am not saying it in a negative way, I don't know what the 2 words you said, disparaging or something like this. Even though if I just say it like out of joking, and he said out of joking too, that is not okay. That's not polite.
Again, I'm not here to tell you what is okay and what isn't okay. I'm here to teach you the natural law of karma. And the natural law of karma is that if you talk to people in negative ways, since you're not understanding degrading and disparaging, if you talk to people in negative ways, this is not going to promote healthy and harmonious relationships. By the time you get to enlightenment, all your relationships in your life are healthy and harmonious, that you don't have hostility and bitterness and harshness and this negative speech to people, that an enlightened being doesn't talk to people that way, because it's only going to cause difficulties in your relationships. So I'm not here to tell you what's okay and not okay. That's what you need to decide. But I'm here to share with you the wisdom that if you talk this way that you're describing, it's not going to promote healthy relationships. And the more that I hear about the types of relationships you have and what's going on in your relationships, it's no wonder that these kinds of things are happening, because you don't have the wisdom of how to function in polite and respectful ways within your relationships. And that's why you're having so many difficulties in your relationships.
Yeah, I know that that I don't have the wisdom to function in a good relationship, because even though since I was child till now, I didn't have a good relationships with others. So I'm trying to understand how to cultivate a harmony with them, a good relationship with them. Therefore, I am asking lots of questions about this, because I don't know and I can't find the answer by reflecting. So yeah, that's all my questions for today. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. So I'm just going to end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for joining for the guided loving kindness meditation and our discussion here after class to help you guys learn the wisdom of the Buddha. Next week, we're going to be doing breathing mindfulness meditation together on Wednesday. And this Sunday in the group learning program, we're going to be in chapter 10, which is titled, What is Merit? This is a unique type of wholesome karma that you're going to need to learn about and understand how to generate and how to produce in order to make your way to enlightenment. So thank you all for your questions, and perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Sawadee khap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.